Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Warm greetings to you all. And thank you so much for being here today. I hope you're all doing well and are in great spirits. I see the chat is already buzzing with introductions, people sharing their names, and some of the organizations that they work for. And I'm very happy to see it. Uh, I hope you're all feeling great. I hope you're all in great spirits today. I'm feeling great and I'll be leading the session. My name is Lynn Kamande. I'm the Africa Regional Organizer for 350 Africa. And I'm very excited to be here. I hope you're all as excited as I am. So we can start off with a check-in. I know people are already dropping some discussions on the chat, but it would be very helpful to start off with one word. Maybe you can all share one word on the chat that represents how you're feeling, how you're doing, how you're coming into the session feeling. If you can drop it on the chat. Feeling inspired. Thank you, Precious. Feeling optimistic, feeling energized. Roke is repowered. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. Feeling great. Thank you, Mohammed. Welcome. Glenn is here. Feeling excited, feeling good, feeling empowered and optimistic. Thank you. James is feeling jolly. I like that. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Feel free to continue dropping on the chat your feelings and your introductions. You can share your name and the organization that you work for or you represent on the chat as we move on. So today's session will be very informative and engaging. We'll explore the journey that has been the REPower campaign, and we'll hear from some of the key organizers from the community and some of the renewable energy campaigners. And we'll also chatter the way forward for our campaign. So feel welcome, feel free. And if you have any questions or comments, as I said, drop it on the chat. So it's an honor to be here with you all as we reflect on the powerful year that we've had for grassroots action. We've had a shared vision and a collective determination through the REPower Africa campaign. So 1 year ago, in July, we launched the REPower campaign, which was a bold dream. We wanted to see a fossil-free Africa powered by decentralized, community-owned renewable energy. So that vision brought out 600 people during the launch at the communities in Uganda, Tanzania, and we also had some one-off events in Ghana, Nigeria, Benin, DRC, and so on and so forth. And since then, 1 year down the line, the movement has really grown. It has grown stronger, it has grown deeper, and it has grown louder. Over the past year, REPower has become more than a campaign. It's become a movement rooted in the realities of our communities, which has been led by those most impacted by energy poverty, those impacted by energy access needs, and climate injustice. So we're planning to launch a report of the 1 year impacts that the campaign has had. And we will do this very soon, hopefully by the end of this month or early next month. And the report will touch on, or it will reflect on the year that we've had. It will reflect on some of the work we've done with organizing and growing the movement. It will touch on some of the lessons we've learned from the campaign and some of the opportunities that we see. Also, it will chatter the way forward for the direction we want to take the campaign for the end of this year and on to the year of 2026. So some of the highlights of the campaign that will be highlighted on the report will be, as I said, some of the work that we've done, putting the community at the center of the REPower campaign. We've had some actions in Uganda, in Tanzania. We've also had some supportive actions in DRC, Ghana, Nigeria. And we've held webinars like this. We've held forums. We've held online actions and offline actions as well. Community engagements, where we've amplified the voices of those on the front lines. And we've ensured that the campaign is shaped in the communities, in the villages, and in the homes where energy crisis is lived every day. Our main focus as well has been building the momentum. So through the coordinated actions at the major events, like the Africa Energy Summit, the World Renewable Energy Day, we've really worked to lift up real solutions for decentralized renewable energy led by the people. And through the year, we've sparked new conversations and brought energy justice into the public and political spaces where we feel like they belong and they should not be ignored. We've used storytelling and education as well to tell stories through op-eds, leaflets, community media, where we are working to frame decentralized renewable energy, not just as technology, but as a pathway to climate resilience and justice, because we believe that the power lies in the people and not in the grid. Movement building and movement strengthening, as I said, has been our core work. We've built alliances with civil society, with women groups, with youth, and the climate defenders. So we've been hosting trainings, like I said, we've been sharing tools and deepening our collective strength. Last year, in July, we formally had the 1-year REPower anniversary, where we celebrated with powerful actions across Tanzania, Uganda, and the DRC. And this was a moment to celebrate, to reflect, and to recommit our commitment as we also springboard into the next phase of the REPower campaign. As we've reflected, as I said, it's important to look at, the strengths and what we've done well, what has succeeded, what has probably been a challenge or failed. And this will also come out in the report. As I said, from some of the areas we've succeeded, we can say that we've really grounded our campaign in the real lives and in real stories. Because, as I said, we've led from the grassroots. We've really worked to move strategically, build broad alliances while being flexible to local needs. As we've done this, of course, we've run into a few challenges here and there, which is completely understandable. We recognize that some of the local groups still lack consistent resources, and this really challenges the organizing efforts with the work to take the campaign messaging to the ground. We also have grappled with the complexities of Africa. As you guys know, participation varies due to political and logistical barriers. So we've had to be really strategic on the way that we're moving, some of the policies that allow for our work, democracy and human rights, and all these other issues that we've had to work around. Also, another challenge has been the messaging. We understand that words like just transition and decentralized energy still needs to be made more accessible, especially at the community level. And finally, while we've mobilized publicly, our work also relies heavily on policy advocacy. So we're working to kind of streamline on these efforts to make sure that we're growing our campaigns to really have strong effect on system and to have the system change that we want for energy access and particularly for decentralized renewable energy. So with that introduction, I'll invite some of the grassroots partners that have led some of the key offline actions in Uganda and in Tanzania. As I said, we've had other actions as well in other countries, but we'll have two representatives share from their perspectives on what the experience has been, what are some of the lessons that they've learned, and also what are some of the ideas that they have for the way forward for the campaign. First off, we'll have the team leader from the Oil Refinery Resident Association, also known as ORA, Christopher Opio. He'll lead up the session, and then we'll have another grassroots leader to share after Christopher. Christopher, you're welcome. Sorry, Christopher, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry about that. I was saying thank you so much, Lynn, and comrades from wherever you're calling from. Good morning from this side of Uganda, and good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're calling from. My name is Christopher Opio. I'm calling from Hoima. Hoima is in the western part of the country, and it's where major oil and gas activities operated by Total Energies in collaboration with the government of Uganda is taking place. And it's also where the project that you've heard much about, that's the ECOP, it's starting from actually right away from my village here where I'm seated right now. I'm going to be talking about the work that we have been doing, the organizing around REPower Africa since this project was launched in 2024, that is last year, on 18th of July 2024. I'm happy to say that ORA, the Oil Refinery Resident Association that I'm representing here, took part in that launch on the 18th. And since then, we have been doing a lot of organizing around REPower Africa. Our activities have been on a theme, or up to today, we are still operating on the theme powering change, rejecting fossil fuels, and embracing renewables. That is the vehicle or the means through which we are driving the change and the narratives on renewables back home here in our community, especially with us, the directly affected communities by these mega oil and gas projects. So I'm going to be sharing with you a few activities that we have implemented since the launch of this project last year in July. So, and I hope you are seeing my screen. Okay, great. So like I've told you, we are based in Hoima. Hoima is one of the districts where major oil and gas activities is taking place. Actually, this is where a lot of the oil drillings and the wells are located. For some of you that might be hearing for your first time about the oil and gas activities here in Uganda, the activities actually are taking place on a very eco-sensitive area. Where I'm based in Hoima, we have a lake which is a transboundary resource, that is Lake Albert, and a lot of the activities are actually taking place on the shores of Lake Albert, which is shared between Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Some of us, up to now, we derived a lot of our livelihood from that lake, especially for us, the upland communities that are typical agricultural farmers. So every time we get our produce, we go at the lake to exchange with the fisher folks. One of the projects that you might be aware about is the ECOP that I earlier told you that starts right away here from my village. and that is a planned 1,445 kilometer crude oil pipeline that is meant to export crude oil. And they say, on estimate, that per day they will be exporting about 216 barrels of oil per day. While they project this project as a very as a savior, for instance, for our economy, and they have been saying this for a lot of time, but the reality on ground here is that for us as communities, it is about displacement. I wish I could go outside this room. I show you where I'm living right now. It's a resettlement, and it is a camp-like settlement, something that is contrary to our way of living. We were forced in here because our land was taken for one of the oil projects. So for us, it is about displacement. It's about environmental degradation. I've talked about the fact that most of the activities are happening on or in eco-sensitive areas. One of the activities that is operated by Total Energies, I think of they say they have about 400 oil wells, and of these 400 oil wells, about 120 plus is found within the Mashishons National Falls Park, which is one of the oldest national parks in Uganda and the most visited parks here in Uganda. So, and because of the intensity and because of the increased traffic and a lot of activities that are happening within the national park, recently we've been seeing a lot of animals, especially elephants, that are roaming around. Now they are moving away from the park into the neighboring communities. Unfortunately, as I talk of today, 5 people have been killed by the elephants. Seriously affected people, especially in Ngwedu, which is neighboring the park. And this is where Ngwedu is also where the central processing facility for the Total Tilenga project is located. On 26th of August last year, we did an action. I wanted to show you what we did. And one of the issues was the issues of the elephant that are now roaming everywhere, and because of the activities that are taking place there, and we are resisting that. Unfortunately, we are always met with repression from the government. So that is the situation on ground, and that's where we are living, and that's where we draw our motivation and our passion, even to strive and mobilize and organize people to champion renewable energy because of our lived experiences. The approaches that we have used over the past 1 year, while driving this change or narrative about renewable energy, one of the things that we have been doing and we continue to do is to counter the narrative by the government and the oil companies, because the narrative here on ground is that the oil and gas has come and is going to bring a lot of job opportunities and employment. So a lot of conversation is actually around employment opportunities and all that. But we've been organizing to say that, no, look here, this is a lie. Another approach to the campaign that we've used is leveraging community spaces and social events for this advocacy on renewable energy under the REPower Africa, then organizing direct peaceful actions. I've highlighted some of them here. In a way of trying to tell the communities the truth about what is happening, and challenging the narrative that I've talked about, the entrenched narrative on the employment. We've been convening. I think up to date, we have so far convened 3 big meetings with the ECOP affected, the Tilenga, and the CNOC, that is the Kingfisher oil projects. And we are trying to tell them that, look here, much as they are telling you that there are opportunities, these are lies. We miss a lot of opportunities in renewable energies, especially for us as communities who are basically farmers. And yet we know very well that Uganda has all these abundant opportunities if they directed the finance into renewable energy. For instance, we have a year-round, sunshine. We have all these rivers and the lakes around here that can generate a lot of sustainable but clean form of energy, including solar, for instance, for us communities. Where I'm coming from, I told you how we were brought here, but one of our things was that we needed like solar installation. Instead, they put us on a national grid, and for a community that had been impacted and lost its livelihood. As I talk of today, only there are 46 houses here. Only 10 of the houses of the 46 have gotten electricity simply because they cannot be able to pay. Imagine if they invested in solar, which is a bit cheaper. Yes, we understand that even the electricity, that the hydro is part of the renewable energy and a clean one, but we want a source of energy that community have decided and said this is the one that we want. So we go on to highlight some of the importance of renewable energy. We've gone forward to also highlight the dangers of the oil and gas. And the good thing with us is not now talking about it. It is a lived experience. Some of us have already gone through the negative experience, and a lot of people are still going through that same challenge. So it has been quite easier for us to relate and say, look here, if they invested, say, in these renewables, this is what we'll be having, and this is what we are missing, but this is what we are having. And what they are saying is here as a savior is here short-lived, because they told us the oil will be here for about 20 to 25 years. And after that, it will be no more, but the cost that it shall have left here on ground is much. So that is one of the approach we've used. But like I've also told you, we have also used these social events. We have talked about organize around REPower in 3 marketplaces in Buseruka. And it was really good for us because, one, it is cheaper because you find a lot of people. What you just need is to go have um, a speaker where you can speak loudly and you have something to showcase, and you're able to attract a lot of people. For the 3 activities we had in those markets, we really engaged a lot of people, and it was so good for us. But also we mobilized and organized a sports gala that we called Climate Change Football Gala. That took place on the 25th of February this year. That gala brought an approximately 2,000 people in one place in one day, and it was a all-day activity where we had a lot of materials written on renewable energy. We talked a lot of the dangers of fossil fuel and so many things to make, for me and for our team, what we enjoyed was that the sport was able to bring so many people, different people, the young, the old, but most importantly, the leaders were also available. And we had communication on a loudspeaker that we installed that day, in addition to the leaflets and the information that we were giving. So it was really good thing for us, which we think even you who is listening to me right now, from wherever you are, please look into it. We've realized that a sport is a very good thing, and it brings a big number of people. And the follow-up calls that we got from people about the messaging that we were passing there, and also many communities saying that, please, can you come and organize this again, because really it was a good avenue to bring people together to pass such information. So we organized one sport also on that. And then I've earlier on hinted on peaceful direct actions. As you can see in the photos below, we organized, that was in August of last year, we organized bicycle riding. Yeah, so with the message. Actually, that time we put a message and we were saying, stop drilling, start paying. And we went on the main roads. Actually, the way you're seeing the first photo on my left, that way it's a main road. That is Kaisotonya Road. So that's where we were riding from. We rode and we would stop in major trading centers, but also we knew very well this is one of the roads that is used by these companies time and again. After every 5 minutes, the company vehicles, the Total, but also this is one of the roads that is used by the government officials. So that day we really had a lot of conversation. A lot of people stopped by to see. Some of them were curious what we were talking and what we were saying, but all we were communicating was the renewable energy, the need for our government, and calling on them to say that please invest in this alternative, because it is the only thing that is safe for our environment, but also safe for our livelihood as a community. Um, uh, um, when vis-a-vis the project that you are putting a lot of money into. So that was one way, which was very peaceful, because I will tell you, no police stopped us, because we were riding a bicycle. It was a form of like exercise and a form of passing messages. We had messages printed. We had these megaphones where we were putting these messages clear to the people. It was peaceful and no one stopped us. And it is something that we want to continue to do further, to rally people, to rally the communities, to get to know this message. And the same people will now use this message to put to question the government and the companies that we are seeing here. So those are some of the activities we've done. And yeah, I can tell you that already there are outcomes. I know Lynn and the team will be sharing the report soon. Some of these things are already featured. I know they are featured in that report. But I can tell you from the ground here where I am, there is already a lot of, there is growing demand among our communities, especially in these communities that are directly affected, where they are saying, indeed, we want alternatives to this kind of project that is devastating our livelihood, that is devastating our environment. So that demand is already there. But above all, for us, for me and my team, is the increased the willingness by the communities, especially the young people. Today, right now, if I say that, guys, please come and we do this action, we put this message out, there are so many people that will come, will join in big numbers. For me, that is really encouraging, and for directly affected communities. So that is the outcomes that we are already seeing, and which I think that we really need to do a lot to bring people to demand for this power that we are saying, a community-owned power, but also to give the people the courage and the encouragement to challenge the government and say, no, we don't want this. Maybe for me, I see that one day we will achieve the revolution that we need, the energy revolution that we need for Africa. So those are some of the things that we have done through REPower Africa. On soon, I think next week, we are also going to be having another big gathering where we are also challenging, saying, Total, please get out from our community. So this is also another avenue where we are still going to pass all this information about REPower Africa. So in conclusion, like I've told you earlier on, that Uganda is really blessed with abundant renewable potential. I've told you about the waters, the rivers, the sunshine that it's here, reliable, and it is throughout the year, that if government only put money there, we'll have power that will sustain our homes, our industries, and the economy, other than this fossil fuel production that is really devastating our communities. Myself, I was affected, by the way, seriously. And when you come to my community today, we are only very few people like me who can even communicate in English, not because those other children or my peers didn't want to go to school, but we were affected in 2012 and we had to stay home. Now, children who were in primary school and some of us who were already in upper secondary school and the university, a lot of them, some of them dropped out of school simply because the government wants to put an oil project and devastated our lives like that. If you come to my community today, you'll meet these young people, and this is not the future that we really want. So for us, our message is that Uganda's energy pass, and even including Africa, must reject fossil fuels. It is the time now for us to rise up and say, no, what we are embracing is renewable energy. One, for the advantages that we are saying that these are very clean, they are sustainable, they are cheap, and they are good for our communities and the environment. So that is the brief about what we have so far done and the organizing that we are doing. Going forward, during our on 18th of last month, we were celebrating, and also we took part in that, in organizing, bringing communities to celebrate the 1-year journey that we have moved together and where we are going. And some of the things that came clearly in that meeting is that the communities are saying, because right now, for people who are in Uganda, you know, we are in election period. There's a lot of campaign processes that are going on and new leaders that wants to come on board. So in that meeting, for instance, one of the communities in Chakaboga said they are going to be demanding every leader that is going to be coming here, but they have also said they want to be organizing the form of the protest that I showed you there, the peaceful actions every end of month. And I think we are starting this this month. So to demand to put the information clear there every month, to say that no, we want renewable, we don't want this other form of energy that you are forcing on us. Thank you so much for now. If there is any question, I'll be glad to respond. Back to you, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Chris, for all the work that you're doing, and also for giving us some highlight of the work that you have going forward. If anyone would be interested to join and support Chris in Uganda, as I said, you feel very welcome to do so. So I can share maybe Chris's contact, his email, and anyone can join and support some of the actions. As I said, the work that he's doing, amazing work. Like, as I said, like the football, the sports, I think is very interesting, and it's a very powerful way to organize and mobilize for REPower. We'll hear from another grassroots partner by the name of Gerald, who's the Chief Executive Officer for Center for Environmental Research and Agricultural Innovations. Welcome, Gerald.
Okay, thank you, Rin. Can you project from your end? Okay, thank you so much, Lynn. My name is Gerald Bariche. I do work with Center for Environmental Research and Agriculture Innovations. It's a non-profit organization that is registered here in Uganda. CELI works under 3 programs. One is environment and extractives, where we run advocacy on stopping oil and gas projects that are happening. Another one is renewable energy, where we are flaunting renewable energy as a solution campaigning to end fossil fuels in Uganda, but also in Africa. The third program is agriculture and innovations, where we are mobilizing communities in Uganda to participate in agriculture activities as one way how they can earn livelihood. So the work we are doing is capped under those 3 programs, and specifically for the REPower Africa, we are focusing on 10 districts in Uganda that are being affected by East African crude oil pipeline, but also we have worked with all people affected by other different projects. And I'm happy that Chris brought out the background around ECOP and other oil projects that are happening, of which I'm not going back to review. He has given a very good background. So this first slide is talking about the situation we want to change. When you look at that lady in the picture cooking, I know there is a lot that comes in people's mind. The smoke, she's inhaling the smoke. At the end of the day, this is the lady that will run to hospitals. She finds no medicine. But you see, as Chris highlighted, Uganda is blessed with a lot of new energy sources. At least you find this lady is using paraffin for lighting. She's using firewood for cooking. You find that she has no even idea about what green energy cooking alternatives are, but also the whole idea about renewable energy. So these are the kind of the community people that we are working with to make them understand what actually renewable energy is all about, what are the impacts of oil and gas, and how they can benefit after joining the campaign. So this is the situation that we want to change. We as CELI through our community engagements and meetings to make sure that this lady in this situation, her life and the family household can change and they adopt to clean energy alternatives. We can go to the next. These are some of the relevant statistics. We have many people on this call that may not be conversant with what's happening here in Uganda, but according to UBOS is Uganda Bureau of Statistics report 224, it says that 25.3% of the households here in Uganda have access to electricity. This makes 74.4% remaining with no access. These are the people that are staying mostly in rural areas. The electricity lines are passing, but they can't afford the installation costs. They can't afford the monthly payments. So these are the people that remain in the darkness, and these are the ones that we are targeting. According to the Uganda Household Survey report that was made, I think last year, in 10.7 million households, you find only 3.7 million having access to electricity. So this tells you that, and the discussion that is happening, that Uganda has excess electricity, but you wonder how the communities keep depending on biomass for cooking and also other data sources of fuel for productive and domestic work. So we have, as of UBOS 220, 19% of the Ugandans are connected to the grid, but also 38% have access to solar energy. But these people that have access to energy, to solar energy, you find they are just using this solar for lighting, for charging phone, but they are not using it for productive work. This is where now the REPower Africa campaign comes in to make sure that there is productive use of also the renewable energy that is that we are advocating for, because we don't just advocate, we need solar to be installed, but you find people are not using it productively and they keep on poverty, not having the kind of energy they would use for both productive and also domestic work. But also for people to understand the communities we are dealing with, the poverty levels for Uganda now stands at 16% as of 2025. So these are people that are living, that don't earn $1 a day. You find, if Chris is still, you find that most of the communities that are in Albertine region, you find they are having 1 meal a day, some even meals. But remember, these are the people that we are dealing with under this campaign. And sometimes it's a complex issue. You organize a meeting, you want to launch REPower, you want to discuss about renewable energy, but one of the community people comes and says, but you see, I slept hungry. My child was just from school. So you guys, what you're talking. So you have to first the session of even organizing the communities to first understand what you are doing. It takes time, and this is why actually we have achieved a lot under this campaign, because you find the message you have packaged when you are connected with the people's narrative, you find it takes a lot of time. So these are the kind of communities we are dealing with. They are not in Kampala, they are not in the cities, they are at the grassroots, and this is where most of the poverty levels are high. Next. Yeah. So we want, this is what we want to see as we run this campaign. We want to see energy that is socially and economically owned by grassroots communities, but not profit companies. Currently, even some of the you find that Uganda renewable energy projects are owned by the private companies, and you find that the energy they produce, they are the ones that determine how much they are going to charge for these communities. But also, you find that these communities are not concerned about the energy that is going to be produced. They are not aware of what is happening. So what we are doing is to make sure that the energy, the kind of energy that we are advocating for comes directly from these communities. And these communities should be in position to actually manage this energy, use it for productive work, but also for domestic work. So this is the kind of, in the picture, it's an engagement that we organized in Hoima. And fortunately, most of the engagements that we have been organizing under the REPower, you find women are very many, and they be interested in knowing what's happening. So it gives a good stand and also a good background based on these people. So we feel if these people can own this energy, can have a decision and can have a say, and empowered and engaged, I'm very sure we can achieve all what we are planning under this REPower. We can go next. Now, this is what we are doing. Under this campaign, we are doing community mobilization and sensitization on renewable energy. Maybe for some information that we have been part of Stop ECOP campaign, and we have engaged in many communities under that campaign, but also other campaigns, including Africa REPower Africa, and others who have been part of those engagements. And you find now this campaign is coming as a hope for most of the communities, because I've found out, as Chris highlighted, all the engagements that we have actually organized under the REPower, we haven't been disrupted, and the communities are eagerly waiting to be part of them. The only issue that is happening is that we can't reach everywhere because of resources, but you find even these meetings you plan for 70 people, 100 comes, and you can't say this one is going to be provided with transport, this one not. So we find that through community mobilization and sensitization, we have been able in position to launch this campaign in grassroots communities for these women and these gentlemen to stand and speak for themselves on the kind of energy that they want to use. We are also doing work on policy influence. We have been part of advocacy for now 3 policies that we want to be put in place. One is the Consumer Protection and Management Law, where we are working with partners to make sure that this law comes into place to regulate what's happening in the renewable energy sector. You find that there are many players, there are many suppliers now in the market bringing out fake solar products, and we have found this in communities where someone say, but you are telling us that solar can be a best product to use at home, but I bought it 2 weeks ago and it's no longer working. And when you are to go in these communities, you find even the suppliers have no licenses. There is no one to enforce those people that are selling fake products and get arrested and charged. So we are planning to make sure that this law is put in place, and the process has been ongoing and still ongoing. We also are advocating to have the solar policy in place, because as we are advocating for the productive use of renewable energy sources, we also need the policies that will regulate on what will be happening in the industry. So we are running that campaign. It is still ongoing, and we are also doing work on working in hand with the education institutions, including the National Curriculum Development Center, to have the renewable energy curriculum formulated into education institutions. Because we feel that when these discussions begin right away from education institutions, really we can achieve a lot of results. So we are going on with these engagements, they are happening, and maybe for people on the call to know that over 75% of total population here in Uganda are youth below 35 years of age. So targeting this group to be part of this policy discussion is a very, very good strategy that we feel this campaign should also put in consideration to make sure that these education institutions are put in a situation where they can be the drivers of change under this campaign. We are also doing media engagements and publication. This is where we are training youth on how to publish these newspaper opinion articles, but also how to write these other products that can be disseminated. This has been one of the successful engagements, especially with young people in education institutions, where at least every training we have with them, out of 10, 4 of them publishes this information on what we train about them. And this has increased the pressure even to government to come out and see what's happening in the renewable energy sector and see what can be done. But also what we also need to do is to make sure that we engage these, especially local media platforms, on what renewable energy is all about, because we have found out that they have less knowledge on how to report about these engagements. But also what we need to understand is that most of them, because this is the campaign that we are running against people that are also following us, most of them have been opted with the ECOP people, Total, and others, but we are bringing all now this new narrative to make sure that we have also allies in the media sector that can frankly talk about what these decentralized renewable energy technologies are all about. Then finally, as we advocate for a just energy transition, we need also to put more emphasis on what is needed for actually to power this just energy transition we are talking about. And we are taking up discussions on what critical minerals are. Uganda has minerals, DRC has, and other countries, but we are trying to see how we can position the communities that are hosting these minerals to actually benefit from them, but also to shape the knowledge of young people and grassroots communities to actually, as they advocate for this energy, they know what it means when it comes to these critical minerals. This is a new work that we are doing, but we feel also the campaign should prioritize on how these critical minerals discussions can be increased so that we can have a technical discussion about what these energy alternatives are. Next. Next slide one. This is the impact or what we may call success. Selai was part of the first group that actually launched the REPower Africa campaign here in Uganda, in Hoima, with other partners. We are part of it, and it was something new because we are used of the other narratives, because there are many narratives that are being built during this advocacy, and we are happy that we are considered to be part of the first engagements. So we have increased debates on renewable energy among grassroots communities. Previously, I would find the people discussing about stop ECOP, but the solution would not come out well. But since we began scaling out these renewable energy trainings in communities, at least you find people discussing about, do you know solar, do you know biogas and others? We have increased this discussion, and especially through university debates, REI has focused a lot in education institutions when it comes to youth. To make sure that when it comes to technical aspects of renewable energy, but also this campaign, we are grooming leaders in the education institution who can stand and speak about these issues, who can have knowledge to participate in the policy formulation, but also people who can speak in our absence. So we have increased this debate is are still ongoing in education institutions, but also in communities. So ASELA is part of the Inclusive Green Economy Network, that is IGNEA, and we are currently establishing the green energy hubs in Uganda, and also Albertine region is one of them that is being targeted. This is where the communities are going to see the green cooking alternatives, but also get knowledge about what this renewable energy technology is all about. So this brings in the power of partnerships, the power of working together, because this is something that SELAI cannot establish alone, but it is through IGEN and other partners, we are able to begin the process of establishing these hubs. And I know Lynn and colleagues, anytime you come in Uganda, you'll be in position to visit and see what's happening. So we have also created platforms for these discussions to happen. We have connected this grassroots youth participate in these global campaigns that are happening. Of recent, we are celebrating the Africa VUCA, and we brought about 74 plus participants to actually, and we had some people online that participated in this meeting. So we are still trying to create as many platforms as possible where people can keep exchanging and sharing information. Increased youth advocacy on renewables, that one I've already explained it above. We are organizing actions among others. Next. This is our reach. Now, as I indicated from the beginning, our work is structured in the way we can't go beyond what we are supposed to do based on the programs of work. So specifically for this REPower campaign, we have reached 4 education institutions, and this is where we are organizing these renewable energy debates to launch this REPower Africa campaign, but also group leaders that can stand and speak about what this campaign is all about. Out of 10 districts, we have reached 6 of them to scale down to understand the kind of energy these communities want to use, the kind of energy they would aspire to use. So it's a scale that, it's a sketch of mapping that we began this year to actually get to know what, because what has been happening is shaping a narrative for these communities in their absence. This is maybe what has been happening, but for this campaign, we wanted to understand what actually these communities want, to know the kind of energy they are using. Unfortunately, we still have a lot of work to do because communities' narratives still stand. They don't know about these technologies. They don't know that this solar energy can even be used for cooking. But from what we have gathered, they're interested in being part of these discussions. And I think we need a lot of capacity building to make sure that these people change the narrative of these people they have towards biomass compared to green energy alternatives. So to make sure that these engagements we are doing don't get lost on the way, we have supported formation of 4 clean energy working groups. These are the groups that we are building under the REPower Africa campaign. We had built many sub-eco groups, campaign, and others, but we also wanted to make sure that we have specific groups that are actually running this REPower Africa campaign, and these are the groups that we reach in case where SELAI is not reaching. These people are in position to organize meetings and give us updates on what is happening on ground. As Lynn highlighted, of course, there are many challenges for every campaign, but few challenges that I have highlighted here is the increased human rights violations. Since January 2025, over 40 youth climate activists against ECOP have been arrested here in Uganda. And this puts fear in most of them to join the climate activism work. You know, someone who has never been arrested for the first time. So when you say now we are bringing this campaign, that fear is still with them, and we still need to work and see how these violations can be challenged using litigation and many other strategies. Uganda came up with the Energy Transition Plan 223, of which is a very good document that I feel everyone should read, everyone that is part of this campaign, to understand what this document is all about. The document focuses on using oil and gas revenues to power the implementation, but you see it is very tricky. That tells you that the country still believes that it needs to exploit oil resources to power a just energy transition. So this is where the technicality part of it comes in terms of policy formulation. And this is what we are doing with other partners here in Uganda to make sure that we challenge the narrative and make sure that this plan is reformed. Limited financing for renewable energy advocacy, and this is especially for grassroots communities. Here, most of the biggest budget for renewable energy is funded privately, not by the government. So here we want to see if the government embrace this and establish and put some good budget for these renewable energy technologies, but also engage the donors and other partners to make sure that this renewable energy advocacy goes on. Then the last one, the renewable energy options remain the new when it comes to just energy transition. Communities still don't understand what actually just energy transition is all about. And this is where more of the emphasis should be put to make sure that these communities understand what just energy transition is all about and what they can do. Finally, which is absurd, is that the government of Uganda continues to prioritize oil and gas investments over renewable energy technologies. Second to last, these are the lessons we have learned, of which I feel they are very, very important project where the campaign is going. It is important to connect Ugandan women and youth champions who are promoting just energy transition with their peers in other countries. This is like what we are doing, having experience sharing from Globe to make sure that communities in Uganda, in DRC, in Tanzania learn from one another and see how they can promote a just energy transition, because these are the global discussions that are happening, and to make sure that everyone is on the same level, we need to create these platforms. We need also, we have also learned that working in local partnerships is critical to drive policy change and also change the renewable energy. We have found out that Sierra as alone or Pala as alone, you can't influence a policy however strong you are. So we have found out that even this campaign to move forward, we need as many allies as possible. Also working in local to global partnership is beneficial as it aids to local to global advocacy. Most of our guys that have been arrested under the ECOP campaign, you are all aware that most of them are released just because of pressure from global partners. So we believe that when we structure this campaign right away from local to global levels, it will yield a lot of results. But also promoting conducive space is very critical for both the environmental rights defenders, but also people that are doing advocacy on the just energy transition. Before I forget on this point, Uganda is heading into 26 general elections, and one of the things that is happening also to us is that this is the critical time where any engagement is questioned. So the campaign also has put strategies. We have learned that we need to put in strategies and know what everyone is doing at what point and when. Lastly, what do we need to do? What's the call for action as far as the campaign is funding? We need regular funding for this renewable energy advocacy. We need exert pressure to oil companies to drop oil projects and invest in renewables. We need to strengthen renewable energy policies. We need to strengthen our community mobilization and sensitization, but also we need to invest in research and publications so that we can have this information on tips that can be used for advocacy. Lastly, this is the last activity, and this is the action event that we organized at Ndeje University last year, where we are also launching the REPower Africa campaign to make sure that these education institutions be part of these discussions. So to sum up our campaign, we are flaunting renewable energy as a solution campaigning to end fossil fuels in Uganda, but also in Africa. Thank you so much for listening, and we keep in touch.
Thank you so much, Gerald. That was a great presentation, and thank you so much for grounding the REPower work into the realities that the communities are facing. We do have a few questions. We can take about 5 minutes to answer 2 or 3 questions to Christopher and Gerald. So if you have a question, please, you can drop it on the chat or you can unmute and ask your questions. But please note, because of time, we'll only do very few questions, maybe 2 or 3. We can start with Godwin. He has had his hand raised for a while now. Godwin, if you're there. I don't think he can hear us. Or as we wait for him to come up, we can have Imam.
Yes, Lynn.
Yes, please.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon from Uganda. My name is Imam Mugisha. I lead the team at Youth Concerns on Environment and Development, YSET. My area specifically, we do natural resource governance, business, and human rights, but also shaping discussion on energy transition, specifically Afrocentric energy transition. Whose transition is it? And from what, where? So I really like discussion from Gerard and Chris. Those guys are really doing some great work here. So under that thematic area, we really did some, projects specifically on community engagement on energy transition, because as Gerard highlighted, you find that we launched the energy transition plan, but you find there are no clear mechanisms of having, communities engage, up to the national level. So there is that information gap and there is that misconception about renewable energies. And you find that while pushing this campaign to net zero, but also transitioning to cleaner energy alternatives, one challenge is community acceptability. So if you consistently have this rejection from communities, it has become a challenge. So if Gerard talks about such issues of information gap, it's a real challenge. It's happening on the ground. But as he said, these monthly meetups maybe can, create an where colleagues from maybe Egypt, Africa, wherever they are, can come together and share what has worked for them in their different countries, could yield some results, going forward. To me, yes, REPower Africa is a good campaign, but we need more strategies like what we have done here, coming together and brainstorm, share experiences from what we've done. You never know, maybe someone, for example, from Egypt is learning from what Gerard is doing, what OP is doing, for example, organizing a football match. This is something that unites, young people together. Gerard highlighted about how 70% is young people here in Uganda. How do you bring them together? It's through such engagements like tournaments. Yeah, thank you very much, Lynn, and other presenters.
Thank you.
I think, Lynn, we have lost you.
Lynn, are you with us?
I think
Comrade,
she's off. She seems not speaking.
Well, the thing is that maybe we lost her due to her internet connections. Yes, we definitely lost her. So I think we can proceed with the other questions coming on our way. Like, could you? Okay, we have her. Lynn is back.
Nice, thank you. I was inviting one more question from Ali. He had his hand raised up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Shai Al from Malawi. We work with Umod's youth organization that is also into renewable energy. At the moment, we're engaging women into solar irrigation farming. And what we have done so far is to engage the government policymakers to make sure that all imports, that renewable energy imports are their exemption of taxes. So to make people access these products at a fair price. My question, actually, first of all, I should recommend Prince and Jared for the presentation, and it's quite convincing and impressive, the job they're doing. Having highlighted the challenges that they are facing, one of the challenges that came out prominently is that the government is not responsive on their side. What mechanism do you think we can put in place to make sure that you navigate these challenges, especially where in this particular project, you need the government to be responsive in making sure that these companies, they are actually backing down to the demands of the public? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ali, for that question. I'll invite either Chris or Gerald to respond on what they're doing to mitigate some of the challenges that they're facing with getting their message across to the government and to shift policies.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Of course, challenges will always happen in every campaign, but what I want to say that actually we are always being reached out by these oil companies themselves. They are always giving us calls to see how, because what you would need to understand is that most of the coalitions that are formed here in Uganda that are against oil and gas projects, they are always actually targeted by the government. So the moment you are very weak and you be part of those engagements, it's the end of you. Chris can tell you that there are actually groups that we began with, but we are no longer working with them because of they joined the other group that is supporting oil and gas. But what we are doing is to make sure that we scale down this information and comes right away from communities. Like what I discussed, like we want communities to be the one to organize even these engagements. Serai, what it does is to support what's happening. But when security agencies, communities are meeting, they are discussing their issues, I don't think they may come to arrest them and do what. But we are engaging also government, we are petitioning the government, we are issuing out many products to make sure that, because what we are doing is under the law. We follow the law to do what we are supposed to do. And I think what has made us move far where we have gone is that we understand the law, we interpret the law, and we see how to follow the law and do our work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Christopher, yeah?
Okay. Thank you so much, Gerard, for answering that question. I'll try to also answer a few of those questions. There are others that are in the Q&A. Someone asked the level of our safety. How safe do we feel and the community while we doing these campaigns? One, I'll tell you that we are operating in a very challenging environment. And what keeps us going is only one thing, that for us, apart from people that come from the cities and elsewhere to do their work here, for us, we are the community. We are part of that community. And somehow it makes it easier for us, like Gerard has said, when we convene a meeting, as I talk, we have a meeting that is ongoing here in my community. We have an engagement. So it's not that much questioned. And that's what we want to do. I think if all our efforts have been put to the communities to be the one on the forefront to demand some of these things, I want to tell you, I don't know in other African countries, but for our case here, our government is not responsive to just a few people. But when a community comes, first of all, they fear for their votes like we are talking right now, they are going for elections. So they fear the community, the power that the community is having than a few people. So that is the only way how we feel safe, because we are the community. So we keep going amidst all these challenges. And to be responsive, for our government to be responsive, we also only have one thing to do, to make sure that we organize the community, and those communities are the ones championing or demanding, they are on the forefront, other than seeing few people taking lead. Yeah, that's the only thing that we can make the government responsive in answering these demands that we are putting forward to them. But in terms of security, yes, as a group, we have benefited from some few trainings from organizations that provide protection training. Safety and security training. We've benefited. Myself, I am a trainer of trainees. I was trained by Defenders, which is a regional organization. So I was selected from this region and took part in that comprehensive training of trainees. And I train a lot of other grassroots community persons here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher. I hope that answered the question. Because of time, we'll have to move on. If you have any more questions, drop them in the chat. We'll respond, or in the Q&A part as well on the chat, which is available on the lower tab. We'll invite the next speaker. Like I said, just to make sure that we stay on top of time, who will be touching on our main topic, which is around fighting fossil fuels and financing freedoms, which with a link to what is next for the Africa's energy future, and to touch on some of the shared policy demands for renewable energy targets and phasing out fossil fuel subsidies, well, with focus on expanding decentralized energy access. So our speaker for that is Karabo. She's the Senior Campaigns Associate and Renewable Energy Lead at PowerShift Africa. Welcome, Karabo.
Thank you so much, Lynn. I just want to make sure, because I sent a message to Mamadou just on the tech bit, particularly for the video, that the sound is kind of disabled, but we'll check when it's time for that. For now, let me just, hi to everybody. I hope that you're doing well from wherever you are logging into. I firstly just want to, congratulate obviously the team at 350, but everybody that's really been behind REPower Africa for the past year. I think that it's such a great milestone in terms of what everybody's been able to really achieve in the past year. In just 12 months, we've built a platform, a powerful platform for communities, advocates, and different people in terms of the policy space to really come together and demand the energy future that our African communities really need. And I think it's just the beginning of, a campaign and a collective movement that could really see our communities and ourselves being empowered to speak about something that we truly believe in. So this is really a huge milestone, and just wanted to start off by really congratulating us. I'll say us because I'm a supporting partner for this. It's really worth celebrating. But I also really want to commend Christopher and Gerald and their communities in terms of the work that they're doing, because I think the campaign or the success of this specific campaign sits with people, and it sits within the communities, and this shows that there's a sense of ownership in terms of the specific campaign, and it's important for people on the continent to realize that REPower Africa is not really sitting with us at civil society, like in the CSOs and where we are not necessarily in the communities, but REPower Africa sits with the people, and it sits with our communities. It is for people, by people, and it's very important for us to take ownership of it. So just really want to acknowledge that milestone that we've made 1 year, and it's absolutely great. Now, I'm coming in to mainly speak as a partner. So I'm not in the communities like Christopher and Gerald. I come from Power Shift Africa, and similar to REPower Africa, we have kind of created a complementing campaign. Definitely, we support everything REPower Africa does. We equally even share a lot of the workings that we do together. And more so, the campaign on WhatsApp Africa has come in to kind of zoom in from a continental point of view to say, what are we doing at a regional level, at a continental level, and what are we doing when we engage with these decision makers to say, what does high level solidarity look like? Because I think REPower is doing amazing in terms of the community aspects of it. So just to complement that work, we felt like it's really important for us to really then come in and see what this conversation means at a continental level. How do we mobilize voices across the continent to then amplify what REPower Africa is also saying? So I'm going to play a bit of a video that's going to just show a bit about WhatsApp Africa in terms of what it's trying to do and how it feeds into, the conversation on REPower Africa. Like I said, it's really complementing the work that is already being done, and how it is that we can then take the conversation from Tanzania and Uganda and then speak about it at an Africa level, but also speak about it at a continental level, regional level, and build solidarity and the exchanges that I see people in the chat speak about. I'm just gonna see if the sound works. Because it doesn't have the I'm gonna do this share button for the sound is disabled. So I just want to make sure. I'm gonna play it and then please kindly confirm if you can hear the sound.
No, not
No
yet.
sound. Yeah, there is supposed to be sound. Like I said, I don't know if it's how you guys have set it up.
Actually, what to do is when you click on share, there is
Sound icon is disabled, so I know how to share the sound. It's
okay.
completely grayed out. I can't even select it.
Oh, sorry. Okay, let me try to make you co-host. Maybe if it will make you co-host, confirm. Yeah. Yeah. Please try again.
Let me see. It's still grayed out. I don't know what is it. But yeah, I still can't select that share sound feature at all for any of the tabs. I think as you try and look at it, let me just continue with what I was saying, and then maybe we can see if it works out at the end. If not, then I'm happy to share the video. It's definitely on YouTube. But just in terms of, I guess, both campaigns and what we really hope to see, especially in this next phase of the campaign, but also primarily on things that we should start speaking about, amongst ourselves, in communities, and even when we speak to whether it's governments, institutions like, renewable energy centers, the African Union, and any other regional bodies like your civics and your ECOWAS and so forth. It's very important for us to make sure that we're very clear on certain things. And I just want to focus on three things, specifically renewable energy targets, the phasing out of fossil fuel subsidies, and then expanding decentralized energy access. And what these things should at least mean for us in terms of, calls, call for actions as we, amplify a lot of the work that we are doing. So in terms of renewable energy targets, I think one of the things that we really need to be clear about is, calling for ambitious, measurable renewable energy targets. We've seen what's possible when governments actually commit. And I want to give an example, for example, with the Kenya government. May not be the best example right now because there's a lot going on. But in terms of the energy side of things, it's already generating over 90% of its electricity from, renewables. And that's because of the clear targets that have been backed by investment, particularly in geothermal wind and solar. So the aspect of making sure that a lot of what we call for is very clear, it's very targeted, it's very much backed by the investment conversation. So also we should not be afraid to have conversations on finances and money and be very direct around how it is that, you know, a lot of these things are going to, how these things are going to be financed and actualized. But also targets mean nothing if they just stay on paper. And we've seen that particularly in some of our countries. We need them to be built on things like national energy plans. We need to be pushing for those kinds of things further, aligned with, you know, the conversation on the climate agenda, but also supported by budgets and infrastructure. And that's why I was saying we need to be very comfortable with speaking about the money conversation, because the reality is where the money is, where the conversation on infrastructure sits, is a lot of the parts where they tell us, okay, we can't really do this because there's no money and those kinds of things. So we need to really speak on how only 2% of clean energy investment is coming onto the continent. How do we use public financing? How do we make sure that all of this is people powered and not just people centered? So people powered and people centered, and that our communities are at the heart of a lot of these decisions. You know, and we need to then also make sure that there is some form of accountability, because we can call for things, and at the end of the day, when things are being implemented, governments are not reporting back to citizens, so there's a lack of transparency and accountability. And I think when we go out there and ask for and we have and set renewable energy targets, we must be very clear about what it is that we really want, and go as far as engaging on financing, infrastructure, accountability and transparency, how it must be people powered and not just people centered, and the role that communities play. Just in terms of then the second one on phasing out fossil fuel subsidies, which is quite important if we're talking about just transition and just phasing out these, you know, the harmful sources that, you know, we're consistently fighting against in terms of fossil fuels. We need to, again, it's also a money conversation. So how is it that the governments can really redirect a lot of the subsidies, the fossil fuel subsidies, into then renewable energy? Because the African continent has a large volume of money going into fossil fuel subsidies, whereas all of that money could really go into clean energy investment, and we don't always have to, again, call out for investment from externally. There is money on the continent. It's really just sitting in spaces and places that it shouldn't be, particularly in terms of fossil fuel subsidies. And there's a lot of that. For example, Nigeria, I think, is a really good example. Nigeria spends billions every single year on fossil fuel subsidies, you know, money that could really be redirected into renewable energy, public transport, adaptation projects, you know, for climate vulnerable communities. And it's so important for us to make sure that we're very clear about our calls for, you know, fossil fuel subsidies being something that is not there, and something that is really redirected. The funds themselves are being redirected to renewable energy and community-centered energy systems. And it's important for us to then call for the removal of these subsidies so that we can then avoid the harm that is caused to our communities. Even though it may seem like a very high-level thing, fossil fuel subsidies really harm our communities on a daily basis, and it's important for us to make sure that we are fully aware of how it is that they harm us, but also how it is that we need to call for these things to be stopped in terms of subsidizing, you know, a very harmful industry. The last one is really on expanding decentralized energy access. As we know that, you know, there's a lot of people on the continent. The current number is 600 million people don't have access to clean energy. And it's important for us to then make sure that people are plugged in. And the best way to make sure it's fast and affordable is, you know, expanding decentralized energy systems, because the reality is we can't wait for everybody to be in centralized, you know, grids, and everybody to be connected to national power poles and that kind of thing. So the best option is to make sure that we're investing in decentralized energy systems, and it's not just the big large-scale projects that our governments are really investing in. The community-based ones are truly the most important ones, and the ones that are really going to get us to a point whereby that 600 million number can be reduced in a very fast paced manner. And in advocating for energy systems, it's very important to be very much deliberate about the decentralized part of energy access and how it is important for villages, for different like powering irrigation pumps and enabling small businesses. It's one of the most important one for access purposes. And these kinds of systems also go as far as creating local jobs, but also strengthening resilience at a community level. And it also helps put control in terms of energy systems in the hands of communities, which is something we truly, truly want. And it's important for us to make sure that our governments are not just investing in large-scale projects, they are really investing in decentralized energy systems. So those are the three key things that I think we need to start talking about. And these are not even conversations that need to be as technical. A lot of the stuff is stuff that we see in our communities, we see them happening, and it's very important for us to it's important for us to model what we want to see and be very direct about what we want to see. So we can't also be blanket about, okay, we need renewables. Some of the renewables are also harmful. We need to be careful about what we want. We also need to be very clear about financing needs to happen. Communities need to be at the heart of it. And that's how then these campaigns will really push for the energy future that we want within our communities. Like I said, I think REPower Africa, there's still a lot to do that, in terms of exchanges, in terms of how we amplify our voices as a collective on the continent. And just to reiterate, they support at different levels. So not just at the community level. Like I said, we are not at the community level. We are like, half of the time, we are basically at the AU, at the World Bank, and I think even those spaces are still important. Let's work together to amplify some of those community positions, even in those spaces, because a lot of the money and the decisions equally come from those kind of spaces. So it's very much important for us to make sure that we really push across the board. The solidarity, whether it's at a community level, cross-country solidarity, regional solidarity, continental solidarity, I think we need to really grow this. And I 100% believe that REPower Africa will be that movement that really connects communities across the continent, and looking forward to continue contributing to the campaign, but also seeing how it is that through this WhatsApp Africa campaign, we can continue complementing the work that REPower Africa does, and not necessarily duplicate it, but just fully support and continue really pushing. And really happy that we could be here. Okay, the sound share is working. I'm just gonna play this video, and yeah, that will be my conclusion. And thank you so much. Lynn, please give me a thumbs up when you can hear the sound.
600 millions of us in the dark? Unacceptable. A future dictated by others? Not in our name. We're flipping the switch. We're rewriting our own energy destiny, from scarcity to abundance, from dependency to self-reliance. WhatsApp Africa is here, igniting a movement for 100% clean, homegrown energy. By Africans, for Africans. Sun blazing from the Sahara to the Kalahari, powering homes, businesses, and futures. Winds sweeping across the Rift Valley, turning potential into prosperity. Rivers holding untapped power, electrifying cities and villages. This is our energy, our resources, our revolution. No false solutions, no one left behind, just real renewable power. Shared, sustained, and unstoppable. The future isn't just bright, it's African. The question isn't if we'll shine, it's how bright, how far, and who's coming with us. Let's WhatsApp Africa, powering change, energizing a continent.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely. Like I was saying, I think, it obviously starts at community level, but we really want, REPower Africa to be a movement and a campaign that really is tapping and connecting communities across the continent, because I think we're all speaking the same thing. And it's very much important to make sure that we are, collectively voicing whether it's our frustrations, our celebrations, and all these milestones together. And I think don't be afraid to definitely take ownership of this, because REPower Africa is definitely the platform for us to continue just amplifying the energy future that we want for Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Karabo. That was very powerful. Would you mind sharing the link on the chat so we can also have a look at the video again in our free time? And because of time, we ask that you guys give us a bit more time, at least 10 minutes, so we can focus on the next part of this webinar, which is going to be charting the way forward for the REPower campaign. And to touch on this is Zaki, and I ask that you don't take too much time, Zaki, please.
I'll try my best, Komrudin, but feel free to stop me if I'm eating all the time that we have left. No, thank you very much, comrades, and thank you for the keen and insightful contributions made thus far, comrades Karabo, Gerald, Chris, and Lynn as well, and of course all those who have contributed in the chat and through the Q&A. But also thanks to all of you for being here, and not just in this particular webinar, but for being here over the last year as we've kind of walked through this campaign journey together and have tried to build something that puts forward a critical intervention that is capable of meeting the current moment and the crisis that we are confronted by. And so a year into REPower Africa, I've been asked to speak about the road ahead, and I do not intend to do a victory lap, but rather to lay out something of a map. And I think it's worth noting that the past year has reminded us that the energy question in Africa is not a technical one, or at least it is not simply a technical one, but by all means, it is political to the bone. It is about who owns, who decides, and who benefits. And if we forget that, we will swap oil for solar, and we will keep the same relations of power that this continent has been under the boot of for far too long. And so our task is to build the power of ordinary people to be able to fight for, to build, to advance, and to defend their own and our own renewable energy revolution on this continent. And so let me start with the moment that we are in. By all means, the climate crisis is accelerating. Debt and austerity are deepening. The fossil fuel projects like ECOP are battling ahead. And in their wake, they are militarizing our communities. They are reorganizing land and livelihoods around extraction. And at the same time, the renewable space is being captured by the same logic. Speed and scale for investors, and not justice and dignity for ordinary people. And so that's why REPower Africa must remain stubbornly rooted in a grassroots movement orientation. And if we drift into the more typical kind of NGO-ish managerialism, we'll end up building green infrastructure that leaves the same power relations intact. And so at every turn, we must refuse that. So what then does the road ahead look like? For me, there are three big fronts which are braided together. The first being movement support infrastructure, the second being resistance and construction, and the third being policy and finance interventions. But all of these under a clear set of guardrails, as it were. So first, movement and support infrastructure. Over the next year, we should be doubling down on building the civic muscle that underpins everything else in our kind of zone of work. And I suppose at this current juncture that is largely Uganda, Tanzania, and the broader East African region, but it is across the continent as a whole as well. For us, that is especially true then in ECOP impacted communities, which means, that organizer training, political education needs to move beyond skills transfer and move towards strategic clarity and understanding energy as a site of struggle, reading the terrain and recognizing, green colonialism and market capture when it arrives dressed as help. And that's especially true in communities on the front lines of major fossil fuel developments. It also means supporting communities to form durable civic structures, committees, cooperatives, associations, but organizations that are able to make decisions, that are able to hold leaders accountable, and sustain struggle between the different kind of news cycles. It means essentially basic backbone movement support, right? So facilitation, logistics, legal accompaniment, and of course, digital and physical security. And it means, ensuring that the voices of the front lines are adequately amplified and that they are put forward to normalize alternative forms of ownership in the renewable energy space and the practicality of people's control over energy systems in a way that breaks the spell of inevitability around investor-led solutions. And so we don't just want visibility, we want narrative power, because narrative power shapes the policy horizons that we are in pursuit of. Second, we must commit to a dual strategy of resistance and construction. And so resistance for us means, of course, standing with communities who are resisting dispossession and the tightening fist of fossil fuel infrastructure. Of course, documenting abuses, building cross-border solidarity so that no oppressed people on this continent are fighting alone. And of course, construction then means helping our people, our communities in being able to articulate their own energy needs and begin building concrete ideas for contextually appropriate alternatives. And I think some of the examples that Comrade Chris was mentioning really speak to how this can be done and how this can then be brought to the fore of the movement and its strategy as well. And if these can take root, comrades, then we hope that they may even materialize as political prototypes that prefigure energy democracy and what it should look like. But the logic of this is quite simple, right? It's about resistance without alternatives can be exhausting, and alternatives without resistance can get co-opted. But together, if we get it right and strike the balance, they can create sufficient momentum and credibility as well. The third strand is the policy and finance interventions. And I think it's important to note here that we should not be outsourcing politics to policy, but rather should be contesting policy because it shapes what becomes possible. Now, some research mapping that we've done in the energy landscape has identified gaps where community power can become policy. Things like tariff justice for mini grids, legal recognition and support for energy cooperatives, public procurement that prioritizes alternative forms of ownership, whether it's municipal and or socially owned or whatever it may be. Rural electrification mandates with grant-based funding and safeguards against the backdoor return of fossil gas under a transition label. And the idea here is that alongside civil society partners, we aim to translate these into campaignable proposals and organize around key moments, whether they are parliamentary windows or regulatory reviews and budget cycles. I see I'm a bit strapped on time. If you'll indulge me for 2 minutes, Comrade. So, look, I think in essence, and I'm going to skip over some of the points I had intended to make around practical interventions, just in the interest of time. But just to share a word on speed and scale, which is a big conversation in the moment, because we keep hearing speed and scale as a cudgel. And of course, speed and scale does matter. People certainly need power, and people need power now. And of course, the collapse of climate is happening now as well. But we also need to ask ourselves, speed for whom and scale toward what? And for us, we believe that REPower, beyond being a campaign in the typical sense, is also a banner under which these discussions and debates can and should be happening within the movement. And in my own view, it's quite clear that market-driven models, they can move fast, but they move fast towards enclosure. They lock in private control, they lock in the high tariffs that the communities in Chakabocha are complaining about and which render electricity inaccessible to them. And they leave us dependent on the mood swings of capital. And so community-owned renewable energy can also scale and move quickly if we design it with, governance templates that can be replicated, with pooled procurement and technical assistance, and of course, municipal and cooperative federations, public works programs, which enable us to train and to deploy local installers and maintenance teams, and of course, clear mandates with public money backing them and behind them. And so we're not saying go slow, we're saying go fast on a path that builds power and not dispossession. And in doing that, we must address the depoliticization of renewables, where too often, and even within our own civil society spaces, energy is treated as a technocratic fix. Here, we intend to answer this with relentless political education, because poor, oppressed, vulnerable, and marginalized communities are not and should not ever be treated as passive recipients of energy solutions. And we are not in the business of charity. By all means, they are agents who are fully capable of both imagining and subsequently governing their own energy futures. And so this is the path that we intend to go down as we embark into the next year and beyond. We need to keep our compass and say, to say that building people's power stands at the precipice above all else. Because those who have thrown us into the crisis are fundamentally incapable of resolving it. And so we cannot afford to wait for some sort of messiah. Instead, we will organize to save ourselves. And that is what success over the next period will look like. It will be determined by the power built from below and how that stands to shift the balance of forces in our favor and towards building a movement that is both confident enough, capable enough, and well-equipped and well-supported enough in order to shift the terrain and really and truly embark on a path towards a renewable energy revolution in Africa.
Thank you so much, Zaki. We really appreciate you for coming through and chatting the way forward. And just to add on what Zaki has said, as we're looking towards the coming months and 2026, we will be working towards policy shift, strengthening our storytelling and educational efforts, especially at the community level, and also long-term organizing as opposed to short-term mobilizing. And we do have some key moments happening in the next month or two. As you guys know, there's the Africa Climate Week and the Africa Climate Summit in September. So this will be an opportunity for REPower to have some actions and a narrative drop. We'll be planning to coordinate some decentralized actions, online or offline, as a moment to organize a continent-wide theme of REPower and to create pressure from the ground up for decentralized public support and visibility. We're also looking at hopefully maybe joining a side event at the Africa Climate Summit as a lead-on towards COP30, and joining some civil society pavilions and coalitions to maybe host or panel some discussions for community-led energy models, and also some storytelling sessions with frontline communities, or some capacity building workshops as well. Mobilizing media and digital engagement as well will be a key action as well. As I said, sharing some of the stories of the real people whose lives can be transformed by decentralized renewable energy, and finding ways to connect these narratives to the summit goals, so that we're able to show how grassroots energy support for the national and international climate targets. We also have the Draw the Line moment, which is happening in September as well. I'm sure most of you have engaged with it, where thousands will take to the streets to draw the line and to demand for real and urgent decisive actions from world leaders on matters energy, finance, justice, and democracy. So this would be a moment as well to highlight the REPower campaign and some of the events that will be happening. In November, we have the Community Energy Month, where we'll be celebrating local decentralized renewable energy projects as a lead up towards COP30 happening in Brazil, where we also hope to stand in solidarity with the Amazonian climate defenders and to launch our continental demands. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join the session. We apologize and we ask that you forgive us for going a bit outside the time. And we ask that if you're interested in participating in any of the events mentioned, or you're willing to share a quote for our one-year report, which will be launching soon, please reach out to me or any of the regional organizers, Rukia and Christian. So as we said, the first year of the REPower campaign has proven that when the community lead, transformation is possible. As we step into the next chapter, we'll be stepping in with courage and more commitment to our message for renewable energy to meet the energy access needs of our communities. And we hope to scale our impact, build political power, and bring about a future where renewable energy is just accessible and is owned by the people. Thank you once again for you all for joining the session, and look out for the one-year report, which we'll share soon. I do hope the session was informative and transformative for you and for all the work that you're doing. And as I said, feel free to reach out to me if you'd be interested in participating, sharing some of your views for the report or anything else. Thank you so much, and have a blessed day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you too, Lynn, for coordinating.
Thank you, Christopher and Gerald. I appreciate you. Thank you, Mamadou, for the tech support.
Welcome, Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you.